welcome back. Or perhaps you should be saying welcome back to me. Yeah, radio silence there for a little bit. Not doing crash hot with the time frame on this poor thing. But it's getting there, right? So we do have the first appointment with a physiotherapist tomorrow. Yeah, today's Sunday. For actually making things work again. So that's how long it takes, you know. So up until now, it's been basically waiting and checking and measuring and seeing how it's going and whether it's ready to start trying to do things again. And kind of sort of is, we think. So proper physiotherapy thingy on Monday, and another one on Wednesday, which is the one that's measuring and checking and all the blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I did get bored, and I started to do something that I thought I could probably do, and that I was allowed to do, that I've checked. And this sort of work has got the okay. Most other stuff has got the no don't. You'll just wreck it, including angle grinders. They still just wreck it and make it puff up and go backwards and lose movement and all that. So, sorry, can't do that sort of thing yet. But anyway, this big shiny thing here, you should recognise that. Oh, I've got to be careful I don't wreck my other hand actually. That normally lives on top of the march. These good guys here. That's upside down, I know. I'm not going to turn it up the other way. Oh, can I? There you go. That was donated to the cause early on in the build. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't paint that, I just wrapped it. We could return it back to its original state very easy. Nothing wrong with it. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It looks good. It gets the air into the cabin. That's all it was for. It does, however, weigh a 2-litre bottle of milk and a can of Coke, aka just over 2.4 kgs, 2.3, something, whatever it is. Bottle of milk, can of Coke, and it normally lives on the top of that. And I was bored, and I decided I shouldn't have. I decided it needed to come off. See, everything's protected here apart from the dust. I should have put his car cover on. It's all right. This is primer, and it's getting painted, so it's no big deal. This roof was never perfect. I made this while I was still very, very broken after my big bounce off the wall at 200 k's an hour, and I was impatient and I took it out of the mold too early, and that created quite a bit of a distortion in this area here. It may not come across on the camera very well, but there's a big high spot through there. There's a big dip there that's been kind of filled in a little bit. After the roof went on and the vent went on, then I decided that this finish, although I mean it's not terrible in the scheme of things, I decided that was not good enough and that needed to be more betterer. So I clear coated over the top of it, and that gets you that finish there, apart from where it's been scratched, and it's a bit better over here, right? So it got us that. When I took the vent off, it left a big area with no paint on it. And I thought, right, I know how much prep work didn't go into this. As you can see, there's no scratching. Well, there's some areas, but that's happened later. There's no scratching to let the paint key in and get a good hold of things. So I got out the compressed air gun because I'm trying to limit the, you know, it's left-hand action or reduced on this one. So I can't be grabbing a scraper and going nuts. That'll just wreck it. Like I've said before, we're trying not to wreck it. Got out the compressed air gun, and the bulk of it came off and is now residing on the floor down there by the compressor in a big mess. You can actually, you can just flick your fingernails under this and peel it off. So I kind of got that far, and the rest of it was a little bit stubborn. I was trying to get at it with the scraper with my left hand, and I was like, nah. Is it worth it? Are we actually achieving anything? Because we're going to try and fix this up somehow. We've got to cover these holes up, and all these rivet holes, and then we've got all these dents and everything. So we're probably up for a layer of carbon over the top of it to try and make it look nice anyway. And then this is not that great. So do you actually bother with it? Or do you just make another one? because I can do that. That's probably less strenuous on my hand, just to make a brand spanking new one, than it is to fluff around with this. I could probably sand this rear section and glue it into the new one on the inside of it and give it more strength, because this one's very thin. I can't remember if it's 2 layers or maybe even just 1. There's not a lot to it. It is only there, as I've said, to keep the rain and the wind out, and it does that just fine. Of course, when the vent was on there, that added quite a bit of rigidity to it, and there weren't any issues, but where there's no support, she's very, very floppy. It's not structural at all, and if I tip the thing upside down on a road cone, probably need a little bit more than the road cone, but it'll come through that in no time. So I kind of had a look at how much material I had and everything, and decided let's just actually start from scratch. And it may be that I call the guys and they come out and they pop the windscreen out of it, because this one's done anyway, and we just put a new roof under here. It leaks over that corner there somehow, somewhere anyway, and the windscreen's cracked, like I say. We'll have to get our guys at Auto Mint, them fellas there, to make us a new one of those if I do replace the screen, which it's allowed to have a crack. That's no big deal, but it's not allowed to have serious cracks or significant. I can't remember what the word is that's used in the manual, and this is starting to, where does it stop? There. There's starting to be quite a crack. It's only the outside layer. It's not going to fall to pieces, but it should really be tidied up. So the mold came out from under the house, which is just the old roof off the car. The original roof from the 3-seater one, actually, not the 5-door one. The 5-door one I destroyed deliberately, and we're using the 3-seater one, which is exactly the same part. There's no difference in them, and making a new roof is the game plan, or at least this flat section right at the very top all the way, and bond that onto what's on the car. I'll make up my mind when I see how badly I get the cloth to stick into those corners there, because without vacuum molding that, it's quite tricky to get the cloth to stick into that corner, especially if you then try and do this radius as well. Do that, then that, without anything to hold that in there. Not so easy. Yes. So I've got a bunch of cloth, I've got some resin and everything. That's got the mold release compounders on there, and should be well and truly good to go now. I've got to just mix up some resin and get on with it. Well, if we weren't committed before, we sure as hell are now. Although, to be fair, I'm not 100% committed on whether the roof is entirely coming off, or whether I'll just leave the remainder and just bond on top of that, which will be totally fine. That's one way to do it. There's no issue with that at all. You might see a slight edge around here, but I don't think anyone's really going to care. Race car and all that. Looks stupid like that though, so don't say leave it like that. So just using scraps, literally just using scraps, what was left over. Kicking about here. I've lost track. Pretty sure there's a couple of layers of carbon, maybe just one layer at the back here. One layer of carbon at the back. There's 2 there because it overlaps. There's 2 there because that, again, that overlaps. And there's definitely 2 layers at the front. And then there's a layer of 200 gram per square meter fiberglass underneath it, where no one's going to see it. And it still looks like carbon fiber anyway. You can see the carbon fiber. So there'll be a little bit of weight penalty there, but nothing serious. I'll make up my mind tomorrow. I potentially could do it today, tonight, but make up my mind tomorrow whether maybe I'll put another layer of the cheap nasty fiberglass, or whether I go and get some more carbon and do the top. I know it's all asked about face then, isn't it? I do the top in one piece, because at the moment it is joined. Just here there'll be a line that runs across the top of the engine bay. But there's something else I'm thinking about doing back there which will make that more or less disappear. I'm considering doing a vent in the top of the engine bay here. So we'll see how it looks when I get it out of the mould. I'm not going to do what I did last time when I was quite crook and I was overly keen and definitely not patient enough, and I took it out of the mould well before it was ready, and the consequences are all the defects that we had in that other one. Monday morning, tore it out of the mould quite literally, quite aggressively, wasn't particularly careful with it. Gave that a wash to get rid of all the PVA in case we need that going forward. It's not the worst job that I've done. The one that I did prior was worse. A few scratches, not particularly deep. You can sort of just feel it. Not worried. Little pinholes in the, it's quite hard to show them. Oh, you can see them over here, depending on where the light is. Not overly concerned, have fixed that sort of thing in the past without too many dramas. Bigger things like this, yeah, that's not ideal. And somehow I've missed that little spot and we've got an air bubble in the resin. Still, I'm not overly concerned. The PVA, mould release stuff, had a couple of runs in it and a couple of spots. And that's what you see there. You can sand and buff that sort of thing out. So again, not overly concerned. The join, that's not good, eh? Huh, I amazingly got the pattern actually quite close. In fact, just about bang on. Just the join's not that great, eh? That's pretty gnarly. This still needs a clean, a wash if I was going to do anything with it. It's still got PVA on the surface, you can feel it. But overall, from a couple of feet away, it doesn't look too bad. Get all the dust off everything, glue it down, sand it. It would be all right. Except the resin that I've used isn't particularly good at UV resistance and it will go yellow very, very quickly. So it kind of does need a clear coat anyway, as per what we did on the wing, to make it look all, it's all dusty, to make it look all fantastic. Shouldn't do that when you're wearing your wedding ring. Scratchy, scratchy. This end back here is significantly worse for little air bubbles and all that sort of stuff. When the resin's a bit warmer, that tends to happen less, and spend a bit more time on it. I didn't go nuts on it because I kind of figured this wasn't going to be great. I already mentioned that earlier on the video and had a plan. Maybe I'll put a vent in here. Can't start there because that's right where the bar is across the top there. So we can't hide that easily. So what I might do, because I've got time and we're just killing time, that's the only reason why we're doing this, is go and get some more carbon fibre and I'll lay some over the top of this, and that takes a lot more prep work to get it painted and stuff, which is the same as what I did on the wing basically, but that's all right. It's interesting, standing beside it, it's deceptive. It looks a lot lower without the without the vent on the roof. That vent there should come up pretty good. That's obviously that's just a wet layout carbon over the top of what we had before, and probably far too much resin on there, to be fair. That took far too long. Far too long. See all the powder. Where is it? Somewhere over there. Sander. My hand is just going. It's been all day holding on to the sander. This one did a little bit here and there just with the old 2-finger trick. Ooh, it's not that happy with me doing that actually. Should have splint on, yeah, buddy splint, but I just washed my hands, so that's why it's not on. I'll put it on in a minute, just in case someone's looking who's gonna try and get me in trouble. It's probably one of the worst clear coat jobs that I've done. Always remember to clean your gun. I didn't, and I paid the price for that. There's quite a lot of crap went in that, and it's not going to have a great result. Other things that happened were I sanded through the resin on the top in a couple of places because the resin was quite thin towards the outside edge here, so I have loaded the hell out of it with clear coat, which of course is running, just to fill in all the little nooks and crannies and everything. This is definitely going to need a wet sand, or what do they call it, a color sand, and then a bit of a polish, or a lot of a polish. It's, apart from where it's got some runs, I'll try and catch that. There's one in the middle there as well, same deal. There was a bit of a funny patch in the middle, so I just loaded it up. So what, let's polish it later on. Apart from those, it's probably a little bit better than the paint work that was on the original roof. It's definitely not awesome. That's awesome. That's nice. So warm standing here. What was I going to say? I did weigh it. I weighed it before I sanded it, and it was 2.3 kgs, and I thought, oh my gosh, you're barely saving anything. Take the, straighten the head out. There's Fest. That was good, eh? It's basically GTR Festival now, but who cares as long as it's happening. The original, that vent that I just took off, that was 2.3 kgs, and the original roof section that I cut out was 800 grams. So total weight that we've taken off there, I can't even do maths, I'm very, very tired, is 3.1 kgs. I did have to stop, think about that for a second. Very tired, time to go inside. So that one, by the time it's painted, I weighed it before I sanded it, was 2.3. After I sanded it, it was 2.1. Put a couple 100 grams of paint back onto it, so it's about 2.3 or whatever. So by the time it's actually bonded onto the car, it's not really saving much at all in weight, like next to nothing, not worth the hassle. But it's going to look a lot nicer, tidier, it's going to be a lot stronger. And in the meantime, at least delete the roof vent. So yes, probably a waste of time. It's cool, I've got time to waste. Looks awesome, doesn't it? It's Thursday morning. Yesterday, I gave the roof what they call a colour sand. Got a bit carried away in a couple of spots. So as soon as it's done that, it's through to the carbon. It's gone through the resin, through the clear coat, through the resin, and through to the carbon. Done. You got to repaint the whole thing. So at that point, I went pretty much nuts, and it's barely focused there, isn't it? The bulk of it's really good. There's some little spots like that there, which it didn't have enough clear coat and didn't have enough resin. There's only the entire area of defects on the roof all added together and put into one spot would be about that big, about as much as a square inch, you know. So what I'll be doing today is getting out the sandpaper, pretty aggressively attacking those little bits, and then I'll put clear coat in there probably. This is now bonded down to the car. That's it, committed, it's on there, it's hopefully not coming off. The bit of hose, smart people know why the bit of hose is there. Not so smart people probably would have tried to figure it out and probably got the right result. You can only put so much downwards tension by applying strops and tape and things like that across like that will be pulling down that way, but only a tiny percentage compared to what it's pulling this way. So by putting a higher point on there, i.e. a rubber hose across the most critical piece, we definitely don't want the front edge of the roof lifting up. If it manages to peel that away, that's going to go very, very pear-shaped. So that just gives the tape a better angle to pull downwards, and there was evidence of that by the resin coming out. So that's needs sanding and tidying up around all the edges. It's just a little bit proud of where it should be the whole way around, which is fine. That's what I wanted. So that's just the same resin as what's used on here with microspheres, they call them. I was going to call them micro bubbles, but that's not correct. Microspheres, it's basically like polystyrene, very, very, very tiny polystyrene balls to bulk it out, make it a bit more gooey-ish rather than runny, to keep it in places that you want it to stay, i.e. in this area here, bulk it up so that we've got good contact the whole way around. It'll be fine. I'm pretty sure that'll be 100% mint. It's got a good, like you would have seen earlier, an inch wide all the way around. That'll be sufficient. It's very rigid. That's about the same as what the steel roof would be. You can push it down, but it takes a bit to do it. So that's much better than what it was before. Not so rigid at the back here. Doesn't matter. We're not worried about people's heads and faces and things like that. Like if we tip the car over, it'd be a little bit harder to poke things through this than what it was before. Not as hard as a steel roof, but better, far, far, far better than the ultra lightweight roof that was on there before. So I'm going to take all this tape off, and then I'm going to run around with some sandpaper and just feather these edges and fill in all those things and go and find something else to do while that cures. Then that'll need a light sand, and then mask the whole thing up, and we'll clear coat it on the car. Good fun. It's going to be hard to see what it's going to look like with all the tape on there, but it's amazing how much lower the car looks standing next to it just without that roof, with the big silver roof vent sitting on there. Realistically, the whole car's no higher, no lower, maybe that much at best at the trailing edge, but it just, deception, you know, visual deception. We should get a lot cleaner airflow up over the top, down to the back of the car and hitting the big wing there. Relatively happy. It's not as perfect as it could have been, but again, it's all about just killing time while we're waiting for this. This tested a lot better. The grip force, you squeeze the meter and try and pop your eyeballs out. We got 47 kgs force out of it yesterday. So we're nearly up into the 50s. This hand here was 57 or something like that. So we're getting there. It should be 10% more. We're gaining. We were at the 40s, I think even 30 something at one point. So we're getting there. It's coming back. Yay. It's a cover-up. It's a blimmin' cover-up, I tell you. So, as far as I know, as far as I reckon anyway, for today at least, that is ready for some clear coat and to make it look, hopefully, magical. We don't have a very good water trap on the air compressor. It's rather cold. The booth is not particularly good. Who knows how much rubbish could fall down from up there onto here while we're busy trying to paint it. But we'll crack on. Worst case scenario, I'll just put quite a lot on and just wet sand it all back again. Obviously I've come through in a few spots there. It's actually quite hard to show it on the camera. Oh, there you go. Now you can really see it. That's through to the resin underneath. Has a different texture to it to the clear coat. That's the clear coat with a bit of a wet sand. Yeah, hopefully that'll come up all right and look good. And crack on. The paint's in the pot, just letting it settle for a few minutes before I try and splash this on here. That'll fix it. Good old jet black. Nice and glossy. That'll deal with, I'm lying. It's clear coat. It's not a perfect result, as you can see. Oh, where is it? Just on the end of the light there. There. See that defect there? There's a few of those scattered around. And I suspect that's basically coming from the poor old compressor sitting in the corner. Look at all the rust on the ground underneath it. Rust stains draining the water out. This sort of thing, ideally, being in the Waikato, you'd do this over summer. See what we've got right in the middle of your screen there. Just water contamination. There might be enough paint on there for a wet sand and clear it. This has only been on here half an hour or so. It's not bad though, eh? Look at the reflection in it. And it's pretty wobble free, pretty reasonable sort of quality. I think that's all right. I think that's probably the best carbon fibre roof on a K12 March in the world that's been done this week. on a silver 1,000 horsepower race car. Yeah, there you go. Definitely qualified that. There's enough criteria there to make sure I was not talking caca. That'll do, I think. This will, as the thinners comes out of the paint sort of pulls tight. So any slight little, like maybe if it's a little bit orange peely in the middle here, perhaps, see that there? That'll pull out a little bit and gloss up, look a little bit better. Hey, compared to what it was, I think that's a win. It looks, from here, it looks good. I don't know, even zoomed in like that, she's fine. It's pretty acceptable, I think. It's not perfect, not pretending it is, but it's definitely good enough for the roof of a race car. It's not a show car. By the time we get a little bit of dust and stuff on this, and out in the real world, instead of in the workshop here with me, bouncing lights off the reflection so that you can see the little things. I mean, we're talking the pinhead size defects, aren't they? But probably 200 or 300 of them scattered across the roof. That'll do. I think the spoiler came out better, to be honest, but that'll do. Time to go inside, have a cold drink, edit this, smash it up for our members. They've been hanging out waiting for an update, and the rest of you can see it a little bit later on. There are a couple more things I want to get done on the car. It comes down to, oh naughty, I'm not wearing my splint. I'm allowed to not wear the buddy splint. That finger seems to have shrunk, that little finger, from lack of use. I am allowed to not wear the buddy splint now. Wear it when I'm working, which I was. I just took the gloves off just before, so I took it off then, washed my hands and put it back on. Don't have to. Can do house stuff, computer stuff and things like that, cooking and eating, and I don't have to wear it, so yay. Where are we at? Did I mention it earlier on? In case I didn't, this hand's got something like 57 kgs of grip, and this one here, I think we're at 47 or 49 or something, and look, I can make a fist. I can finally make a fist again, so we're getting somewhere. It's nearly fixed, but light duties for a little bit so that we don't piss it off and go backwards. Then I've got to get on with some stuff, lots and lots of customers' stuff here, but I'm going to make a new sump on the March. The plate on the bottom is basically, it's an extension, a sump extension, and I've welded a plate across the bottom of it, and that works, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because there's a lot of vibration, pulsing with the blow-by inside the engine, and that's beating the sump thingy to death, and the welds keep cracking on it. So I've got to make a new one out of billet, and then it can't do that anymore, and then it's problem solved. It keeps just generating a small oil leak, like with sort of a patch the size of the cell phone on the floor after a day's racing, and then park it overnight without putting anything under it. So that's not acceptable for me, and that's, given what I do, I shouldn't have any oil leaks, so that needs to be fixed. I've got to change the brake fluid. We'll do that soon. Can't do that at the moment without taking the wheels off, and I don't want to take the wheels off and piss off my hand and go backwards. So there's a at Auto Addict at Hampton Downs. Is it tomorrow? Might be tomorrow. All day. I would have loved to have gone to that. It's pretty cheap too. It's $250. You get 5? At least 5 15-minute sessions. I think it's 6. That would be heaps. More than that March would do. We'd probably end up sitting one out to let it cool down in between. But it would be ideal to get out there and do some testing. Basically, my budget's screwed at the moment. Obviously, not working, not making money. Could go if I really wanted to sit that one out. Unfortunately, I'd love to support it, but not putting myself in the shit to do it. Not that I'd be in the shit. It'd just be, I wouldn't have enough money to go and buy boxes of Blue V. We can't have that. But I'll do the next one. We should be all right for that. I want to test that wing. I actually want to get some load cells on there, ideally, so we can actually see the value of what's going on there, and rather than just fiddling with it going, oh yeah, it seems to go better, we'll actually have some valuable data and be able to plot that versus G-forces or corner speed and given corners, and relate it to everything that's in my head as to how the car felt and all that sort of carry on. Actually get some improvements out of it just for fun, like make the car go faster. Yay, that's always the goal, but it's the fiddling in the workshop, and that is where I'm enjoying it. The car would go faster if I just grew up here, but I want it to be really fast and just driving it like a pleb and still do awesome lap times, and know that if we threw someone in there who is an absolute god of a driver, it will go stupid fast. So too much paint thinners, I think. Paint fumes, too much talking. Right, thanks for watching. Cheers, boy.